Good afternoon. My name is Fabrizio Aiello, and today I'm going to be doing some drawing. I have the beginning of a drawing based on H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth. So I wanted to hopefully finish up this drawing and then maybe ink it on a stream again. If you are new to me or new to the channel, I have a comic book called Horace H. Hoover, published by Alternate Comics, and that's reversed. Well, I'm sure people can read in reverse, right? All this fancy technology, surely. There we go. So the comic book is Horace H. Hoover, published by Alternate Comics. Issues 1 and 2 of a 5-issue limited series are available at alternatecomics.com. It's printed on newsprint, which is great for sort of an old school feel. It's like a pulp mystery occult adventure. Check it out. All right, so let's get some music going. I just noticed that there's a selection for feeding the ducks that seems oddly appropriate for the Shadow over Innsmouth. So I think I'm going to do feeding the ducks. Might not literally be feeding ducks in Innsmouth, but good enough. Okay, tools today are pretty simple. Just regular old lead holder, a very small eraser, larger, and my kneaded eraser. I have some rulers when this come into play. Any questions, comments, let me know. All right, so this is sort of set up like almost like a movie poster, like montage. So let's kind of go over what I have so far. We have the setting, which is the city of Innsmouth. So I started laying that out. You know, I have the church, which is where the cult is. It's not quite right. I have sort of some shamblers in the street. Those are the people that are after the narrator. Then I have this sort of priest-looking guy and something that potentially be the hotel. And then down here we have sort of a zoom in of an Innsmouth character, which is just too fun to draw. And then we have another one, and we have sort of the narrator, and I wanted to put him in like knee-deep water, just to kind of show he's in the depths. And we have I put a moon. I was going to actually do something a little explicit, not explicit, overt, in the sky, like actually have a silhouette of something, but I decided against it because I think I would actually like to do some lettering, almost like this is a real movie poster. So that's the goal. First thing I'm actually going to do is line the borders. And for this, I actually stuck to the blue line sort of important area that's ruled already, which I generally don't do. Even on my regular comic book pages, I'm going all the way to the edges generally. But for some reason, I was able to stick to the inside for this. And when I draw, I will draw outside that frame, but it's good to know where it is at least. So one thing I like to do is whenever I'm doing architectural stuff, I like to be as accurate as I can in the beginning. So I want to make sure I find my horizon line and vanishing points, and I do that as accurate as I can, given the time, obviously. And then that way, whenever it comes to the inking or the detail work, I can really like lean and sort of break a lot of lines confidently that I won't go too far from the actual structure of the building in the perspective. That's kind of what I did with this. For the most part, I have the church set up pretty accurately. So the next step will be really making it look like a rundown church that's been taken over by some cultists. Because cultists generally, let's see, we have John from John's Long Box. Great show. We're watching a lonely artist descend into madness and devolution into a fish. Possibly. That's a possible outcome of this thing. Mike W. Stoked to meet you at Baltimore Comic Con and get my H. Hoover comic signed. Oh man, that'd be awesome. That would be great to see some people that know the book, and I'd love to talk to some people that I don't get a chance to see in person. So yeah, that'd be awesome. With me and my wife, hopefully not too lonely at the booth, but we'll be there nonetheless. I caught some of your show today, John, and you mentioned John Zorn, and I'm like, we have this very odd musical intersection, which I find fascinating. Although you lived in a place where you could see all of these people, I just know them, unfortunately. But that John Zorn story was awesome. Alrighty, so I'm gonna work on this hotel a little bit. I wanted to do a decent fire escape, which it's not often that I use reference, but sometimes you need to. And fire escapes, like the really specifics of a fire escape, can get kind of difficult. So I'm gonna look into that. I've never lived anywhere with a fire escape, so I don't know them that well. John Zorn, like you, is the most normal-looking guy with a streak of mad genius behind that. It's funny because some of my favorite hardcore bands, as the time went on, were just pretty straight-laced. Those dudes wore like colored shirts and pants to these shows, and I was that one dude in the hardcore show wearing kind of just dressed up as just like a normal person. All right, so I have my reference here. Nothing too special. There's nothing too special about this kind of stuff. It's just you just got to get the proportions right. So obviously, once the perspective is down, you just got to make sure the windows are, normal sized. Comics, hardcore, and John Zorn. I'm in the right place. You really are. There's an odd intersection of that, which was surprising to me, but awesome. What band was that? I was thinking of Snapcase in particular. I went to go see them. I mean, I've seen them multiple times. I know they had a lot of different members of the band. I think this was at the Metropole, maybe, in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's probably been 20 years since I saw Snapcase, but Quicksand would do that too, although Quicksand's probably more considered post-hardcore, but Now you're just naming bands I love. Then we will have a lot to talk about in Baltimore for sure. When I ink this, I'm actually going to try something a little different. I probably won't get a chance to ink it today, but usually I'm pretty careful on sort of the technical side of it. So I'm not very expressive, we'll say. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of dry brush and splatter and things like that, but I think I want to test out some things. So whenever I get ink this, it's actually going to be a little different than my normal style. I mean, the good thing about Innsmouth though is you can definitely play with the architecture because it's old, decrepit, everything's in disrepair because cultists never take care of their stuff, and I just don't understand why. You never hear about a cultist moving into a town, taking over an old church and fixing it up. You don't hear that. Because if they fixed it up, they could probably sway some people in the neighborhood. They're like, did you see that nice cult that moved into that church down the street? They've really done such nice things. That's really cultist. That's all they need. A little bit of PR. I mean, come on. Have you ever seen the movie Dagon? I haven't. I don't know if I've seen that many Lovecraft adaptations. I did see the Call of Cthulhu, the silent one, which I really liked. I thought that was done really well. They always miss the mark. Not that that's a deal breaker for me. It doesn't have to be a complete reproduction. Was it any good? They're not ready to make the jump from cult to tax exempt. It's true. Team up with Wes Loker to make a nice cult comic. I'm trying to think of other adaptations that I know a lot of people don't like the 70s version of the Dunwich horror, but I actually really like it. It's trippy. It's very 70s, but I don't know, something about it I still really like. A lot of people don't actually like the drawing, watching the drawing, because it can get, admittedly, it's a little tedious and it's not as satisfying as watching ink. I figured I'd just show my process a little more. I always like the idea of fire escapes. Not necessarily for fire, but just to have a way out. I've lived in a lot of apartment buildings, and there are times where I'm like, yeah, something happened. I'm just going to have to hang out in the bathroom and hope it goes away. Somebody's Dunwick has excellent creep vibes. Yeah, it was surprisingly entertaining. And the palette, the color palette was really trippy. And if I'm overly technical with this part, it just makes the sort of the aging process so much fun when I'm inking. Not that I am being overly technical, but definitely not eyeballing everything. Mike, I am extremely biased, but I recommend Call Girl. That name is pretty much says it all. I think I'll have to find that immediately. I was thinking about something today. Might seem random, but and I might do a video on this. But it kind of struck me as interesting, and I was thinking about passive writing. And somebody might have whole books on this. I don't know, but it's just something I thought about today. Is whenever I'm in the middle of a book or writing, I don't like to go too far ahead. I just totally messed that up. I don't like to go too far ahead because then it's not like at the forefront of your thinking. Like just the other day, I was kind of mulling over issues 4 and 5, and they're, written and started and that, but the final dialogue isn't going to happen until the drawings are done. So there's always room to kind of connect things that weren't there before or add new little Easter eggs. And it really was just like this passive writing. Like in the background, my brain is still thinking about these issues. Comic book issues. And it's just making these connections almost for me in the background, which is one of the reasons why I don't like to jump ahead too far. I don't want to have too many issues, because then your brain is thinking about issue 10 when you can still squeeze out some cool stuff, in the issues that you're working on. Even if the script is done, even if quite a bit of it is already done, you can still, with a line of dialogue, you can imply something that could completely change a character. So that's something I've been thinking about, passive writing. The last Lovecraft was surprisingly good was Lovecraft Horror Comedy. Yeah, I don't know that either, actually. Huh. Yeah, the shoot, H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, the one that does those radio dramas. And I also think they're the ones that did the Call of Cthulhu silent film. I thought, and I haven't checked in a long time, I thought they did another one. I don't know which one it was. I remember them mentioning they were working on another one, but I never went back to see. But I actually think those radio dramas are excellent. They're just as good as, you know, a movie. So in Innsmouth, do you think things like tuna fish are banned? Because that would be like eating their own. I wonder. You get caught eating like a crab cake and you're hoisted up and killed. Shoggoth on the roof. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I didn't. Is that a real thing? Lifetime member. I get my stamps every year to Miskatonic passport. Is that a membership thing? I was unaware of that. I bother radio dramas occasionally, but I didn't look too deep. It's pretty cool. I was going to go over the top with this and have like a fishy hand coming out of the sky kind of thing, but I thought, yeah, even though this is kind of like movie poster territory, I'm kind of leaving that. Yeah, you can join the website. I'll have to check that out. I feel like I've spent so much money on their stuff. Yeah, you know what's funny? I guess it's okay to talk about Lovecraft this whole time because I am doing Lovecraft. There's another Lovecraft podcast called H Literary Podcast, I think. The one with Chad Pfeiffer. I can't think of the other dude's name. But this was crazy. I got to ask Brian about this. I was listening to an episode and Chad Pfeiffer mentioned Brian's name. He did a drawing for him, some off thing. So I have to ask him about that because it's one of my favorite podcasts. I've been listening to it for a very long time. And when he mentioned Brian Baugh's name, I'm like, what? I know him. I think it was an old episode, so I don't know what it was for, but all right, so this like fish priest man, he's roughed in, but I want to get a little more detail before I move forward with anything else. I didn't look online. I don't think I've ever seen, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure I have. I don't remember seeing any examples of the Innsmouth jewelry, like the headdress that he talks about and all the crazy jewelry that's not supposed to be indicative or indigenous, I should say, to like the US, or they're trying to place it whenever they're looking at it at the museum. Indo-Chinese, I think they try to place it, or they say it kind of looks like this, but not that. So I'm just going to go crazy with this thing. Since he's the priest, there's no way he has ears that you can see. Where is Zadok Allen? You know, I was going to put him, we'll see how the composition goes. I was actually going to kind of put him here. It's like a bottle, like a drunk kind of thing. That's what I was thinking, at least, because I had to have some example of him. Yeah, maybe I will do that. That was my goal. I mean, he's a drunk. I have to go back to see how they describe him, though, before I throw him in there. It has been a while since I read it and or listened to it. I probably should have reread it before I did this, but I mean, I feel like I've read it so many times in the past. The big things pop out. I even put the bus, just because those are the big things that always stick in my head. The bus, the hotel, the church, Zadok, the Shamblers. I wanted to try to work in Devil's Reef? Is that the name of it? Yeah, I think Devil's Reef. You know what? I'm going to show a charcoal drawing I did of kind of an Innsmouth look. I'm gonna break that out right now. Maybe I lied. It'll take me too long to find that. You know what? I will post that, though. It's a pretty big drawing. It's like, I don't know, 35 by 20 or something like that. It's a charcoal portrait of like somebody with the Innsmouth look. It really freaked my wife out. She did not want me to hang it up. Usually she's pretty good about that stuff. Like, yeah, skulls, tentacles, go for it. I'm going to have some things hanging from him. He's really big on jewelry. As long as his crown doesn't look like a McDonald's birthday crown. That's really all I'm going for. Joe Sargent. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to have to use an actual template for that moon. If not, that's going to drive me nuts. I rarely use these templates. So it's actually nice getting a little bit of use out of it. Let's see, more Lovecraft. This was kind of funny. The Dunwich Horror. Dunwich Horror. The Dunwich Horror. I had heard somewhere, maybe one of those podcasts, I can't remember, that Lovecraft had based, I don't know if the architecture of the place, but basically it was based on a place in Massachusetts called Wilbraham, and he had traveled through there or gone for a week, and I can't remember offhand. Well, years later, my brother, Felicia, moved to Wilbraham, so I frequent Wilbraham all the time. Granted, this was a long time ago, but Wilbraham's a nice little place. I wish we had really good photos, like a photo journal of where he was and what he was doing, and what he was looking at when he was thinking, this would be great in a horror story. I would love to see HHH leading a team to see what they saw at the Mountains of Madness. Yeah, I really would love to see, like I mentioned the other day, just situations and monsters, whatever it is, just throw Horace and the gang and just see what happens. It's just so much fun to me. Not that it would be a complete farce or like satire, because Horace would investigate and do all the things, but I just think it would be so much fun. This bus does not look good, even though I used reference for the bus. Sometimes reference doesn't work out because sometimes real doesn't look right. I know I've said this before, but it's true. Real doesn't always look accurate, so you got to really tweak it. I didn't get to ask Friday who would win, Godzilla or Cthulhu. I mean, my money's on Cthulhu. I just feel like he's a higher level being. Godzilla just seems like when if they found a 200-foot octopus or something, I'm like, okay, I understand. That makes sense, just because we're starting from reality. We're starting from the animal kingdom. And we're kind of working our way up, kind of like King Kong. But then Cthulhu is he's just way above. Okay, this bus is driving me nuts. I'm gonna try a different bus design. I could do like a traditional bus with just like the flat front. Maybe that's what I'll do in lieu of... Maybe an old school, just flat front bus. Usually it's big bumpers. I definitely have like a rounded front like this. All right, let's see. So I do like the priest guy. Kind of like his crown. I think the hotel's working for me. Moon. I think Zadok Allen here roughed in. This will actually work pretty well. But this, and then there's the bus, which this bus is better for sure. I think I just need to clean it up. Oh, I can have people in the bus. That'd be kind of cool. It's a pretty good size too. Get a postcard, greetings from Innsmouth. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'll do with it. I think I would like to do these more often, though. You know, just sort of traditional illustrations. It's just nice to change up some stuff. All right, so I think I might keep it pretty close to Lovecraft stuff. Yeah, maybe some fantasy stuff too. That might be kind of fun. It's always fun to do like your take on sort of traditional monsters manual type stuff. We're having a lovely time. Wish you were here. I think that's officially the postcard. I could see a line of Innsmouth cards. Legitimately. I mean, I would buy that. Like an Innsmouth version of every holiday, Christmas cards, and just being as sincere as possible. I love that. That's bus. Did you ever hear the HPLSH Christmas songs? I don't think I did. Trying to think. I remember like some poems. Maybe that was the other podcast. I don't remember any songs though. Although I do have, again, I'm mixing up the podcast, but Chad Pfeiffer's album. I think he started, I mean, I don't know what he does for a living or anything, but he started on the, oh my jeez, the HP Podcraft Literary Podcast, I think it's called. Andrew Lehman was on there a bunch, and then I realized he was from the Historical Society doing those radio dramas. I'm like, that makes sense. He's just got such a great voice, does a bunch of cool characters. Okay, this side of the bus is not right, but that's fine. They have 2 CDs, A Very Scary Solstice. That sounds like something I would love. All right, I need to know what the other side of this bus looks like. Help me out, people. Help me out. Just give me a shot of the other side of the bus. Oh, man. Yeah, that's 1952. That's not going to cut it. I might abandon this bus style completely. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. You guys are really seeing my actual process. Frustration, progress, frustration, progress, anger, and then quitting. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll grab that link. Actually, I just got it right now. I will definitely check that out. All right, so I think this is the kind of bus I want, right? That's a better bus. It just looks cooler. I'm going to go with this bus. All right, what does that mean? That means I need to extend the front. I hate covering up my shamblers, but I think this actually makes for a better composition too. You want overlap as opposed to just things in their own lane, so to speak. This kind of goes back a bit. curves. Actually got 2 windshield pieces. Okay, people get out here. Yeah, this really sets the time period better too, showing this kind of car for somebody who has no idea. They do know it's an old car, that's for sure. So what I usually do is, whenever I make a decent sized change like this, I'll sit on it for a little bit. Come back to it, just to make sure I made the right call. Like anything else. It's really looking bad, isn't it? Watch Rob draw a great commission while talking cannibalism. Typical NY Sunday. Yeah, for sure. For me, drawing's a lot harder on the fly while talking. I can ink while doing anything, but definitely doing that initial layout can get pretty tough. Just because, again, if you make a big change, I don't want to commit to it until I've really thought about it. When you're live, you don't have that chance to sit on it, come back 20 minutes later. Oh, you know what? That's all wrong. I'd rather do this or that. That's a really loose bus. Okay, so let's see if we can tighten this up. I don't have that much to say about cannibalism, although I have always wondered, like that Beyond Meat stuff. I always thought that they should do like human flavored meat, and I'm saying this, they probably already do, I don't know. But what you can do with it is really draw out the cannibals. Just have somebody at the grocery store waiting for that person to try human meat, because it was on the radar at that point. And if it was on the radar, I don't want to say it's only a matter of time, but maybe we should be watching that person. I'm only partly joking. Man, there's just something about this that is just not looking right. I should be able to draw this. Have you ever drawn comics for other people? No, definitely not professionally. I did a short story. Well, technically, I guess 2 short stories, kind of. I have time to talk about this. Usually, I'm brief and I kind of skip over stuff just because I feel like nobody wants to hear my long-winded history. But right out of college, I had a friend of mine ask me if I wanted to do a short story. I did. It might have been 6, 7, 8 pages. I honestly can't remember. Mostly finished that. I think it was finished, at least drawing and inking. I can't remember if coloring was. And then that was it for, I don't know, 10 years. Then I was working in advertising for a long time. And somebody I met through advertising, a designer, asked me if I wanted to do a short story, a comic book short story. I'm like, yeah, sure. This is my second sort of foray into it. And this was finished with colors, and that was maybe 10 pages, maybe something like that. And then he wanted to do a full comic. And the short story was pretty terrible as far as the artwork is concerned. I think he had a pretty good idea for the writing stuff, but I didn't quite understand it because he wouldn't give me sort of the big picture, which is fine. So then he's like, okay, let's do a comic book, or at least maybe it was a miniseries. I tried to do the first issue, and we could not agree on character designs at all. I mean, I must have designed this one character, I don't know, 30 times, and he wasn't satisfied with it. So I eventually kind of gave up. I got a few pages into it, though. Yeah, that was it. That was the extent of my comic book career, drawing for myself or anybody else. So it's not like I drew comics for myself on the side or anything like that, just because I felt like I tried. I came up with an idea for a story, and I kind of came up with an outline, maybe a script, but it never went anywhere because I felt like at the time my writing wasn't good enough. Yeah, it just was. I didn't feel like it was up to par. And then I obviously didn't have the skills drawing comics to make it worthwhile. So yeah, definitely. That's the extent of my experience with comics, drawing. I think the biggest thing for me is I really need freedom to kind of draw, not entirely what I want, but somebody comes up with a character concept. I think the artist really has to have a lot of flexibility. At minimum, I think that the feedback has to be actionable stuff. The one guy that I worked with, his description of the character, I got to think about this. He described him like an old badger, I think. I'm like, I mean, he's a human man in his like 70s, and he kept on describing him as a badger. I'm like, I don't really know what that means. I mean, I know what a badger means, but how do I get that look for a male, like an adult male? So I think that was one of the biggest problems. Okay, so that's roughed in. I'll have to actually finish that later, but it's enough for me to see what the placement's going to look like. If I wrote HHH, I couldn't imagine having to describe the library for somebody else to draw. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, me either, because a lot of that happens in the drawing. You know, as you're drawing it, even if you have a pretty clear picture of like, okay, I want a big figure in the middle of this grand library. When you get into the nitty gritty, when you're drawing it, things change and you realize, oh, it'd be really cool if people walked across this giant sculpture's arms. Okay, so now it's a catwalk at the top. Okay, it would be cool if, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of that stuff really happens in the drawing process. So that's why I feel like I mean, unless the artist doesn't want creative freedom, I think you really need to give them as much as you feel that they can handle. In New Mexico, I befriended a native shaman who called me Badger. You could have been my model for that character. Yeah, that's the feedback wasn't bigger nose, smaller chin, brown. Like it was literally he should look like an old badger. I'm like, well, I know it's just it didn't work for me. Again, that might be the perfect feedback somebody else can use, but not for me. I know. I even look sad. Yeah, I would love to know this shaman. What was it about you that he thought was badger-like? Unless, were you badgering him? Literally, he's like, stop badgering me, you badger. They weren't used to New York sarcasm. I mean, who is? I'm drawing and redrawing this guy's head 10 times. Look, that door should be a little bigger. So it was either badger or asshole. Yeah. I've never befriended a shaman, though. That's interesting. I love the face in the lower right. It's so creepy. Oh, that guy. Yeah, I gave him overalls. I feel like I wanted to make sure that there were, even in Innsmouth, there's, you know, they have different occupations, different class systems still. He's the farmer, and maybe this guy's the hotel concierge guy. I love this story. Is this a commission or something for a book? Hey, Ben, how's it going? It is not a commission. It's just something I wanted to do. just kind of break things up a little bit. I wanted to do one of my favorite stories. And yeah, it's really just to shake things up a little bit as far as what I'm drawing. Gives me something else to kind of focus on for a minute, you know. So probably for the next few streams, I'll draw this and then ink it. I was considering actually doing watercolor, but we'll see. What I'll probably have to do is print this out on blue line on some watercolor paper for that to really work well, because this Strathmore 200 doesn't take water too well. Now, the guy in the middle is the narrator, and you can tell by his facial expression that is the facial expression of realizing you're part fish. It's real specific. I know you may have to look really closely, but that is the exact expression that you would have if you found out if you were part fish. Nice. Watercolor would be awesome for this. Yeah, it's been a while since I did watercolor, so I figured in particular this subject matter would be great. All right, so the bus is roughed in pretty well. That really was difficult. I wasn't expecting to have to do that bus a few times. I'll clean it up later, but yeah, once you do all that erasing and finally get what you need to, I get to go back and redraw the stuff back here. It's kind of a pain, but not the end of the world. I got my shambling crowd here. I love doing little characters like this. You can really play with the gestures and don't have to worry about the detail too much. Well then, Ben, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And also, you may be part fish. So... All right, I'm going to work on Zadok Allen a little bit. I know I said I would wait till I read the story. Can't remember. I don't think he's 100% fishy looking, right? Because he didn't. Man, it's been a while. He didn't take like the final step to become a fish person. So I'm just going to make basically a bum. A bum who is aware that there's a shambling crowd. Can you even see that? Probably not, huh? I mean, it is pretty small. I hate when my hand casts a huge shadow. Man, that's a pain in the butt. Jeez. And I cannot get this light to offset that shadow. Oh well. Here's what it is. So I have to make sure that Zadok Allen has a bottle in his hand, though, because that's his shtick. I'm going to give him a suit coat. I feel like bums often wear... Okay, what is he doing? Is he has his legs up, maybe? Does he have a blanket over him? Cardboard. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to have to think about this one. Even though it is tiny, it's those little details, those little characters in the background that give viewers something to kind of pore over. Just knowing that there is more stuff to look at if they actually spend the time. That is so tiny. Jeez. Maybe he's laying over. He's laying down. With a bottle on the ground. Maybe. I feel like Zadok should be a bit more prominent, though. So, just in case you're wondering, these are things that you should have decided earlier on. I'm just kidding. It happens. And you have to be flexible enough to actually make the changes on the fly. If not, you'll never, whether it's good or bad, you'll never potentially carve some new cool thing out of a drawing if you're too afraid to erase, to redraw. So you just gotta experiment, see what works. And it could be that none of these new things that you're looking at work, but you tried them, and that way what you have is actually the best version of this drawing, and knowing that is actually pretty cool. Was the church called the Church of Starry Wisdom? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I do remember that. I just picked a New England church that I liked. And I will say there are definitely times where you're like, well, I can't remember how they describe the church, to be honest, but you just got to pick things you like. Even if the story describes a particular bus or a particular house or a particular church, very much like a movie, it just might not work as an interesting part of the drawing. So I picked an interesting church. I thought this was pretty cool. All right, let's get back to Zadok. What do we want him doing? Is he just a drunk back there? Is he peeking around the corner? Like he's scared? People might think that's the narrator, though, huh? Yeah, he's got to be a drunk guy and just in a shamble, in a pile. He could be dead. He could be drunk. We don't know. He's laying up against the wall. His head on his chest. Maybe passed out. He's going to be wearing a sports coat, though. A suit jacket, I should say. Because like I said, I really think, at least back in the day, everybody wore that, so that's what homeless people, bums, were wearing. I definitely also need to have a bottle in his hand, because that's how we get him talking. Get him drinking. He spills the beans. Okay, maybe not like that. Have you read Maplecroft? It's about Lizzie Borden killing her folks because she found out they were turning to deep ones. I have not. Lizzie Borden. Wow. She's fascinating. And also that old metal band, Lizzie Borden, always captured my imagination when I was a kid. All right, he's got a. I want to make him look dead, but we don't know. Is that a thing? So maybe. All right. The problem is we have pretty bad placement with this guy's head there. With his head there, it might not look great. I might have to forego old Zadok. I thought I would be able to throw him in here, but I'm second guessing myself on this. As far as composition, I mean, the composition's pretty good. We have a focal point, kind of goes up. It's pretty circular. Got this point down, which is nice. We want that sort of circular composition. If I add character right here in the background, like bums will like clutch a bottle while they're sleeping, right? Or passed out or whatever. I'm really torturing myself by having to put like a tiny figure in the back. But I was just talking the other day about how these small drawings are super important, so. When I ink this just might turn into a blob, but at least there's somebody back there we can call Zadok Allen. How about that? There's obviously junk back here. All right, so all of the major stuff is in place. I'm going to clean up the narrator a bit. He should look as fresh-faced as possible, just to really show how hideous these Innsmouth folk are. I gave him a shirt. Should I give him a suit jacket? Maybe. That way he'll look different than this dude here. I mean, that's what everybody wore back then, really. Unless you were a fish person. Then it's business casual, I think. I think if you're a fish person, you can say, I am 20% fish. Your boss is not going to mess with you. And they're going to be like, all right, you can do business casual. Everybody else is wearing a suit, tie, all of that jazz. Yeah, it'd be kind of fun to do these illustrations. The stuff will definitely inform Horace for sure. You know, it could be that, like this guy here, I draw him in a certain way, I give him certain aspects, and then he could turn into a character in a Horace issue, or it could give me an idea for a Horace character or something like that. So if you try, you can really find, I hate using the word inspiration, but you can definitely find inspiration and material everywhere, as long as you're looking. And sometimes when you're not looking, obviously, but anything can be a story, a character, an arc, a location. So it's always good just to keep your eyes open. So normally I put giant evil eyebrows on my bad characters, but they're fish people, so they don't have hair. I'm kind of giving them really thinning hair. So they're not, you know, they haven't completely turned at this point. But like little detail in the skin can kind of give the impression of wrinkles, or scales, maybe. What time is it? An hour and 20 minutes. Holy cow. I wasn't expecting that. All right. I think it's good for this one. I'm going to go over it one last time. So we have Shadow over Innsmouth. Kind of movie poster book cover type thing. We have a montage of, we have Innsmouth, we have the Church of the Starry Wisdom, we have some shamblers, we have the bust that the narrator wrote in on, we have sort of the priest with a crazy headdress, a couple of characters here, classics, maybe this is the bus driver, I can't remember. Then we have the narrator sort of in water, just kind of driving home the metaphor that he's in deep. And then we have a little Zadok Allen passed out in the alleyway. And yeah, I think it's getting there. Hopefully over the next couple of streams I'll be able to finish up the pencils and then do the inks and then color it. So Mike W, really enjoy watching the composition evolve in real time. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie. Doing this sort of perspective and anatomy and all this kind of stuff on a stream is a little tough, as opposed to like a sketch card or something like that. for me, I can probably do sketch cards a lot easier just because it's a contained thing. But this definitely has a lot more moving parts to it that I have to kind of make sure are right in this phase, because if not, the inking will be terrible. But I'm getting there. I appreciate everybody popping in. Is that what you pictured when you started this? How different? Pretty close. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty close. To me, getting the thing is, I'm going to really like age the church and really age the building. And that's when I'll feel like I've reached, whenever I get the atmosphere down. Right now, structurally, everything's working. I got the rulers, like you said, you saw me using rulers. But when I go in and start putting shadow and really aging everything up, and that gives me the vibe of Innsmouth, then I'll really be happy. So I think it's definitely getting there. I don't plan on erasing anything else, except for little things, but I'm not going to pull any other characters out. I'm not going to redo the building. Things are definitely moving in the right direction. But yeah. Appreciate everybody popping in. John, Ben, Mike. And I'll see you next stream. I'll probably be streaming quite a bit, but have a good weekend, guys. Bye.